This will be a simple bill also. I expect this to fly through. Senator, you have SB 1308. And you have a substitute?
Yes, ma'am.
All righty, please.
Madam Chair.
Is there a motion and a second? And a second? There's been a motion and a second to accept the substitute. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Senator McPike.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senate Bill 1308 deals with two issues: a technical change to the notice provisions of the right of first refusal statute, as well as various changes to the warranty reimbursement statute. When a customer's vehicle has an issue that requires a repair, the problem is not on warranty or recall. The customer pays the retail price. But when a customer's vehicle has an issue that requires repair and the problem is under warranty or recall, the customer pays nothing. The dealership fixes the problem and is reimbursed by the manufacturer. But manufacturers manipulate the amounts paid for warranty and recall repairs in a number of different ways. The manufacturers don't pay for the same hourly rate as labor as retail customers. Manufacturers also artificially reduce the amount of time they claim is required for the warranty or recall labor, so they paid less hours. And manufacturers has complete control over price of parts and or alter them to reduce their warranty recall repair costs. All this forces the dealership either to pay the technicians less for the work they do on warranty and recall repairs, or supplement their pay and allow the manufacturer to shift those costs of their product quality issues to the dealer. Madam Chair, those are the fundamentals of the issue. The substitute addresses a couple different things. All right, given a little space here. So a couple different things. The time limit for the first refusal has always been shorter so that the seller and buyer do not get too far into the transaction. If the manufacturer is going to come in and buy the deal, it's a technical change to make the statute more consistent. There's a little confusion over complete proposal, so that is corrected to make it very clear in terms of when that occurs. The second is it brings Virginia in line with 15 other states, and the bill removes the reasonableness qualifier, and that's really one of the key issues to this is determination of reasonability, and simply relies on statutory calculation to determine the retail amount. The next is it guarantees the technicians are compensated for the time spent waiting and communicating with the manufacturer for technical assistance relating to a warranty or recall issue. As you can imagine, if you've got a new issue, you've got to discover it. That's the technician's work to ensure that they properly repair the vehicle for the customer at no expense to the customer. It also addresses a problem with the prices of parts and the manipulation by prohibiting manufacturers from arbitrarily reducing the price of a part that would be used in recall or similar repair. And the bill would also establish the price of the part as the highest price in the last 12 months. And this has no impact on consumers as those parts are entirely at the expense of the manufacturer. And the price manipulation simply allows manufacturers to unfairly shift the cost of their product quality to issues to the dealers. It also allows the dealer to request reimbursement for rental expenses when incurred within 30 days of the retail, having paid those charges for a customer's rental vehicle. It also clarifies that the manufacturer must reimburse the dealer when it requires the dealer to provide rental without exception for a kind of vehicle. As you can imagine, it comes up. If you have one manufacturer, they might say, you have to rent that same type of vehicle, but those vehicle types might not be available by a rental agency. So it causes a conflict, and those costs get shifted to the dealer. They're there to serve the customers and do right by them, so they're having to, again, pick up those costs. So it clarifies that they're not forced to shift only to that same manufacturer and the rental. And Madam Chair, lastly, this bill would also allow dealers to return unused parts within 12 months. This is really about ensuring the workflow when it comes to warranty work. And sometimes that comes right off the line. They discover a new car has an immediate warranty. So it's really, it's cheaper for them to keep on moving through the line and repair at the dealership. So those costs are getting transferred to your local dealers. This is about fairness and capturing those costs and where those costs should lie. And that's at the manufacturer, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Senator Rome has a question.
Thank you, Madam
Senator
Chair.
Rome.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Question for patrons. Madam Chair, to ask a patron. Number one, whether he probably feels like most of us on the dais here do, that these inter-industry fights, that especially if we legislatively dealt with some of this stuff just a few years ago, is number one, annoying. But number two, have we gotten to a point yet where they've basically got into a room, worked out a deal, because I certainly told them to do that when both sides stopped in my office. How far apart are the two sides on your substitute at this point versus where they were on the original bill?
Senator McPike.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So we did incorporate a few things as the discussions have progressed, but I think the underlying discussion around the reasonableness and how to price out what is the market is still at somewhat of a contention. Ultimately, the issue for me, as probably you as well from a constituent, is the mechanics end up taking the hit. So the fight between the manufacturers and everyone else, the mechanics end up taking the hit based on time and other things. We're starting to correct some of those, but the reasonableness, I think, is a key issue right now. And I worked on this section of the code, and reasonableness at the time we accepted to see how it would work. And here we are today, years later, where they're applying some other dealers' rates to theirs in different regions, and that causes a conflict to say, well, this guy's lower, so this is what you should be charging. And so that's where a conflict, even though they have a history of saying this is what we're charging our normal retail customers over the last couple months, here's all the receipts to it, they're saying, no, you can't charge those, you got to charge what someone else charges. And so it's really artificially lowering the market. The market is effectively working because they have retail customers in, they got the receipts to prove it, of what the markets bear and what the mechanics also need and how they recruit mechanics to work, right? It's a full cycle. And so when they artificially depress it, that's coming out of the pockets, ultimately, of the mechanics that are working on the cars. And that's ultimately unfair.
Thank you. Are there let's do 6 minutes per side for support for SB 1308. If you'd come to the dais, to the podium, and introduce yourself. We have a total of 6 minutes per side.
Hello. I'm sure glad that you guys updated this building because the last time I was here, it was very hot. And with all this hot air around is making it very uncomfortable, hot air. So, my name is Dan Bannister. I am a first generation car dealer in the state of Virginia. I have 4 locations, and I started out as a salesperson and worked my way up over a 30-year period to now owning 5 dealerships, 4 in the state of Virginia. This bill is important to me, and let me tell you my experience with the manufacturers. But I also want to preface is that I am the chairman of the VADA, Virginia Automobile Dealers Association, and I also serve on a couple boards with different manufacturers. So I don't have an antagonist relationship with manufacturers, but I will say this is that, I think that we were talking about, Senator Rome was talking about, negotiation. It's not really a negotiation. The manufacturers tell you how they're going to pay you. There's no negotiation. Now I sit down with the dealer advisory board, with the leaders of it, but at the end of the day, it's their decision, and they tell us how much they're going to reimburse us. So a couple things that I've noticed. So I bought a dealership about a year ago, and the dealership that I bought it from, owner, they were getting paid about $100 each time that they did a particular work. But what they did when I bought the store, they told me that they had to back down the same compensation down to 70. And they said I had to wait a year to reapply just to get back and reimbursed at the same level of the previous dealership. So right there, it puts me at a disadvantage. Another example, I have a customer that's in for a warranty procedure. They're getting some work done, and we need to put them in a rental car. The customer comes in, we put them in a rental car, and it costs $65 for me to pay to get that rental car. Well, the manufacturer only reimbursed me $45, so I have to eat that cost. So, and the manufacturers, they don't negotiate and say, all right, we're going to pay you the higher level, even though I'm doing that because obviously I want to take care of the customer. Another example, customer comes in, the engine fails, it's covered under warranty, the technician takes 8 hours to fix it, but the manufacturer only pays me 5. Who has to pay the difference? Me, I have to pay it. I want to make sure that obviously that the customer is taken care of and my technician is taken care of. Now, obviously that cost has to come from somewhere, so I have to find another way to subsidize it. And I don't want to have to subsidize the manufacturer. So I love the brands that I have. I don't have an antagonist relationship. I just want to be fairly compensated. So please support House Bill 1308. Thank you.
Senator Sturdivant, did you have a question for the witness? No. Okay, then if you could hold.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. I'm Ann Gambardella with the Virginia Auto Dealers Association. Let's be clear on one thing about this statute generally. Warranty and recall compensation is about problems with the manufacturer's product. Manufacturers want to push on to dealers the cost of their product quality problems. The patron did a great job walking through the language of the bill. I'm going to focus on the one point that we know the manufacturers have been trying to make concerning how to determine warranty compensation and the qualifying term reasonable. In 2022, Senator McPike had a bill to do the very thing we are asking for with this bill, removing the qualifying term reasonable. The language you see stricken on lines 56 through 58 was the compromise. It has not worked. The manufacturers now say we need some sort of compromise on this issue again. When they abused the last compromise and it didn't solve the problem, we feel the best approach would be to make the change we wanted 3 years ago. And why has this compromise not worked? Manufacturers routinely rely on the amounts charged by other dealers to contest an individual dealer request for increased compensation under the statute. Because the manufacturer sets the amount they pay to all dealers, they completely control the comparison. If every dealer request is deemed unreasonable and reduced by the manufacturer, they will reduce the dealer compensation generally, and then this will be used against the next dealer making a request for an increase. They are controlling the market pricing of warranty work. When we shared this draft with the manufacturers in early December, we made it clear that this comparison was the problem with the way the statute was drafted. Each time they have made suggestions for amendments before very late suggestions early today, they included this comparison in their language. There are 15 other states that have taken this approach. Other states are considering this legislation now. This is clearly an issue nationwide, and Virginia dealers should not have less protection. If this bill is successful, dealers will still have to comply with the code that lays out how to determine what manufacturers must pay their dealers for warranty and recall work. It is their retail amounts from 100 consecutive repair orders or repair orders over 90 days. This retail rate must be reasonable or the customers wouldn't pay it. And if manufacturers can challenge the dealer on this process of calculating the amount. Again, the dealers will show the receipts, as the patron said. The manufacturers argue that everything must be okay because the dealers are not routinely challenging their actions, but understand any dealer seeking to grow their business knows that when they apply for an additional franchise, they will be asked on the application if they have ever sued a manufacturer. We were joined yesterday by over 100 people, dealers and their service department employees who advocated for this bill. It makes a difference for them. There is nowhere else they can go to get relief. We ask that you support SB 1308, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Did members have any questions specifically for? Okay. Is there anyone else in the audience in support? Alrighty, we'll hear for the opposition. 6 minutes for the opposition. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, I'm Edward Mullen with Seven Hills Strategy Group on behalf of General Motors. We'll start by thanking the patron for working with us over time and VADA for doing that. They did come to us in early December with this draft, and we have worked on it, and several things have changed. We do have several concerns remaining that I'll let other speakers behind me speak to. I want to draw the committee's attention to the specific question of reasonableness that has gotten a lot of attention and sort of walk you through logistically what I think happens if the deletion, at least on my draft, it's lines 56 and 57 of the reasonableness provision goes through. So if I could draw your attention to the bill, on my bill, it's line 52 or so, it's 46.21571A1. This is how the compensation of a dealer for recall or warranty parts, service, and diagnostic is set. It shall not be less than the amount charged by the dealer for the manufacturers, so on and so forth, that they charge to retail customers for non-warranty service, parts, and diagnostic work. That's the floor, cannot be less than. The ceiling under current statute is found on lines 56 and 57 in the deleted language. It's a reasonableness provision saying it cannot be less than the amount charged to retail customers, but if it's unreasonable, that's a ceiling on that. That's the line objected to by the auto dealers. What I would flag to you as a potential unintended consequence of that deletion is without it, if you drop down to around line 74, 75 or so, to subdivision 3. This is where increases are handled to these rates. Increases for warranty parts, service, compensation, diagnostic work compensation shall be requested by the dealer in writing, shall be based on the 100 consecutive repair orders prior or the 90-day period. So if I'm a dealer and I say, you're currently compensating me $5, I'm charging retail folks $10, here's my 100 consecutive orders to prove that, you got to move me up to the $10. Without lines 56 and 57, the reasonableness standard, there's no mechanism in the law that would keep a dealer from, for a period of time, for 100 consecutive transactions, having a higher price that they charge to retail customers, setting the warranty rate, and then immediately dropping it back down. I understand and have heard representations from VAD that their members would not do that, and I'm sure in the vast majority of cases that is the case, but if the law allows for it, that's concerning. So I'd like to continue to work with them. This seems like a pretty wide open loophole that should be closed if this legislation is to move forward. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, I'm Josh Fisher with the Alliance for Automotive Innovation. We represent the automakers with franchise dealers. We do appreciate the patrons' changes, but to answer the fundamental question, we are very far apart. Tell you a little anecdote. Anybody familiar with Willie Sutton? He was a bank robber of some renown, one of the first people on the FBI's 10 most wanted list. When asked why he robs banks, he answered, because that's where the money is. Why did the dealers want to get rid of the reasonableness standard? Because that's where the money is. We don't have to guess about what will happen. We know because we've seen it in other states. After the standard was removed in California, one manufacturer saw labor rates increase by almost 98%. The bill adds unnecessary costs, which are ultimately passed down to the consumers, Virginia consumers. The second point, very quickly, about discouraging manufacturers from reducing the cost of parts. There's plenty of reasons why part costs go down. The supplier may have found cheaper inputs, better manufacturing process. There's plenty of reasons why the cost of a part should go down. And when those dealers are given those free parts as part of recall kits, they charge us back. So why are they getting an even higher cost back? This is just pure inflation. This is inflationary policy. It's creating artificial costs for the consumer, and we encourage you to oppose it, although we are trying to find compromise. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. My name is Jim Bridey, counsel at Volkswagen Group of America in Reston. Appreciate the opportunity to address yourself in the committee today. We oppose removal. I'm going to focus on that reasonableness from the provision. This bill gives a license and an incentive for dealers to increase the prices with no checks on labor and parts markup. The reason, and it's happened in other states, rates have gone up. It's not just a 90-day period. Under the 90-day period, you can give 5 repair orders and get forevermore a high rate. We've had over the last 3 years a 30% increase in Virginia dealers' gross profit from warranty. So it's working for them. That's more than the inflation rate, and it's the national average. We've had only 1 denial in the last 3 years. Our 26 dealers have all made requests, and the denial was worked out very quickly on a parts markup. In closing, I would say, have any of you ever voted for a bill that removed a reasonableness provision from a law? I don't think so. I don't know that it's happened in the General Assembly. If you do, go in with eyes open. You're opening it up for consumers and manufacturers to be taken advantage of and pay higher rates, and the ultimate loser in that is your consumer, the biggest constituency each of you has. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Jeff Palmer on behalf of Ford Motor Company, we would ask for preservation of the reasonableness standard. The absence of reasonableness allows for unreasonableness. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Senator Sturdivant had his name in the queue first, and then Senator Hackworth.
Madam Chair, thank you. Just a question for the patron.
Senator Sturdivant.
The question I'd ask is, if I'm understanding the bill correctly, is this is applying in the case of warranty or recall work? Is that accurate?
Senator McPike.
Madam Chair, I'd answer the senator, yes. That's exactly.
And so follow-up question, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Senator Sturdivant.
And so these are instances where there's been a problem with the manufacturing process that has resulted in a recall for various reasons. or in a warranty issue that the dealers are then having to deal with and have their mechanics spend time working on that they otherwise wouldn't be had there not been a recall or a warranty issue. Is that accurate?
Senator McPike?
Chair, I'd answer the senator. Yes, that's exactly right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Hackworth?
Yes,
Do
so,
you have a question?
Madam Chair, and to the patron, and I guess maybe to someone that speak to this. So to follow up on Senator Sturdivant's, so am I correct that the manufacturers will pay the shop rate that is published, or do they try to pay less when these technicians are working under this manufacturer's recall or warranty?
Senator McPike?
Thank you, Madam Chair. To answer the senator, that it's exactly what's at issue with the reasonableness issue, and what the auto dealers are coming back to you to say the reasonableness standard right now is being applied by the manufacturer and then artificially driving the price by using other comparators versus their real experience. What the auto dealers are putting in this before this body is to say, let's use the real experience, which is receipts. I mean, I don't know how else the reasonableness to define other than reasonableness of real experience in the marketplace as the best way to define what reasonable is, but because we've used that in the last several years when I worked on this legislation as a test, as the compromise. And our experience has said and found through the auto dealers that it's not working because there's an artificial drive in which then the next case when they use it again, it's then applied again to drive the prices down lower. And so the only reasonableness that's really before the committee is the actual receipts. It's actual history is the best way to prove what the market bears in the market experience. And that's what's really at the heart of this.
Thank you. Senator Hackworth, are you finished with your question?
No, follow up, please, Madam Chair.
Senator Hackworth?
And to the patron, so on line 61, it says diagnostic work shall include all time spent by a technician who meets the manufacturer or distributor's qualifications and requirements for the repair work, communicating with the manufacturer's technical assistance or external manufacturer source in order to complete a warranty repair. So is it my understanding that right now they are not paying, or sometimes they do not pay for diagnostic work if they have a technician that has run diagnostics, and they do not pay for that, even though that technician is tied up doing diagnostics? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Senator McPike?
Thank you, Madam Chair. That is a part of the sort of disputes is making sure, I think that the manufacturer to say it's not their issue. The auto dealers are saying we want to make sure it's a clarifying issue they're working on, and they need clarifying support because they have a new fix that they have to use the technical support. That technician hour should count to the bill back to the manufacturer because ultimately it's fixing their underlying issue.
Speak to the bill.
Senator Hackworth?
So having a couple of car lots and working with warranty work and things of that nature, it is very frustrating sometimes, Madam Chair, when that you send a car in for warranty work and it does not get repaired as quickly because the technicians are not getting paid the same rate because the manufacturers are not paying that same rate that they would normally get with shop time. That's very frustrating. The other frustrating thing is on diagnostic work. Anybody that's worked on these vehicles knows that takes a lot of time. And I know the manufacturers may say, well, they're not there watching that or doing that. Maybe they're doing other things. But having been an employer and having these type of mechanics, you want them there watching that. You want them there monitoring that. It's hard for them to do other things. So I think that this is a reasonable approach to fix this problem that we're having with our auto dealers. And I thank the patron and for the work that they are doing to try to fix this. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Cyphers?
Madam Chair, speaking to the bill.
Senator Cyphers?
So I spent quite a bit of time with both sides discussing this, and while I share Senator Rome's sentiment that it would be better if this could be worked out between the two parties, what is clear is in the existing code, it says compensation of a dealer for recall or warranty part service and diagnostic work shall not be less than the amounts charged for retail of the same part service and diagnostic work. And one thing that's also clear is that we do have scenarios where the part prices have been changed. And I think maybe we're at a place where there may not be a perfect solution here, but it seems to me that the burden is being put on unnecessarily on the dealers. And while I realize that ultimately the consumers pay for these things, I don't know that asking the dealer to be a firewall to the consumer is a fair assessment. So I'll be supporting this bill.
Thank you. Senator Rome, you had a question or comment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Question for the patron.
Senator Rome.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can the patron explain how he thinks, based on the debate and everything, a couple things, I guess. Number one, what impact will this have on the non-warranty cost? So basically that deals with mechanic labor. Let's just start there to begin with.
Senator McPike.
Madam Chair, the impact of non-warranty work. Madam Chair, I respond to the senator. As you heard from one of the dealers, when folks are trading off costs, theoretically, it could increase costs for non-warranty work if they're subsidizing something else. I mean, it's all got to come from the mechanic's time, right? The parts, everything that organizing it. And when you're transferring and depressing one part of the cost, right, you're pushing a balloon, and it's going to force elsewhere.
Senator Rome, do you have a follow-up?
Okay, sure. The second question here comes from a constituent who asked me to ask about the number of hours that are predetermined for customers not being charged, the actual hours, but the standard number of hours determined by the industry. So pretty much, how do you kind of marry up how the dealers are basically charging the manufacturers, what the manufacturers are then saying in response, and the problem that you're solving with the bill?
Senator McPike.
I'm going to ask one of the folks who deal with this every day to make sure that the answer is appropriate for the committee.
Okay, the manufacturers come up with the amount of hours they think or they feel it's going to take for them to do the repair. And normally how they do it is they have one of their master technicians do the repair, and they get expert at it. And then they go to the dealership, and maybe they do one a month or two a month, and they're not as quick as the others. So we end up getting penalized because it takes 10 hours, and their expert can do it in 5 hours.
Thank you, Mr. Bannister. Other questions, Senator Rome?
Yeah, the final question is just basically going to be, if we pass the bill today, will we see higher costs being passed on to consumers, or is that not a worry at this point?
Senator McPike.
Madam Chair, I'd answer the senator that warranty is free to the customer. Ultimately, if you buy your car and it's under warranty, you're not getting charged. I think that what the manufacturers are saying is they will increase their car prices because they didn't get the manufacturing correct in the first place. And as a business model, I'm not sure that's a solid argument to my customers to buy my product. It's not an offensive thing. I'm just saying as a premise, maybe get it right the first time.
Thank you. Senator Srinivasan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a question for the patron.
Senator Srinivasan.
Senator McPike, when this mechanism, let's say this mechanism goes into place, what happens when after some time, when the retail goes down, would the manufacturers or the dealers talk and discuss, and the rate would change, rate would lower? After it, let's say it increases now, would it lower later if the market goes down?
Senator McPike.
Could you repeat the question? I didn't follow the question.
So if the rate would go up for dealers right now, if they see the retail rate is lower than what they're getting paid, so they will get higher reimbursement, right? The dealers for the warranty repairs.
Madam Chair, I'd answer the senator that what they're trying to do is to make sure that they get the rates which they experience for the retail, and that's equally applied to the warranty work. Then the manufacturers are responsible for paying. So they want to make sure it's parity without artificially driving down that warranty work.
But when the retail goes, sorry. Madam Chair, your follow-up question? Thank you, Madam Chair. If the retail goes down, would there be a mechanism to adjust it?
I'm sorry, if the retail?
If the retail rate changes later, would there be a mechanism?
Madam Chair, I'd answer the senator that, yes, if in the future they experience and they go to reset the base and the rates are going down, then the warranty rate would also equivalently go down.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
It's a benchmark process,
There's
but it's
a
not
motion.
immediate. So there's a time period, Madam Chair, that they benchmark those rates. So just to be clear, if in the future they go back for reimbursement, they've re-benchmarked and experience that would happen.
Thank you. Do you have any further, did you want to wrap up, or have we
Thank you,
followed
Madam
this?
Chair. Appreciate your time.
There is a motion. Is there a second? Okay, there is a motion and a second. I will say that I have hosted a number of meetings and listened to both sides for years at this point, and there is not seeming to be a place in the middle. And so if the clerk would call the roll, thank you.
Ayes 15, no zero.
Thank you, Senator McPike. Your bill passes 15-0.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members.